Block by Block Uprising. This is a cooperative and also semi-cooperative game in which you're gonna fight against the police. The game is set in a dystopian world in which the police is not there to serve and protect, but to defend the status quo that allows sweatshops, overcrowded jails, and polluted slums to exist. So in this game, we are going to use color cubes representing we the people, going against white cubes representing, again, dystopian fascist police. The game, as I said, is fully cooperative, solo friendly also, and it has some similarities with Pandemic, at least in the general idea of Pandemic and other games like Arkham Horror. That is one of the major traditions in cooperative gaming in which, well, you do your things, you spend action points going around the board and trying to complete your objectives and to keep the enemies at bay. And then there is a card-driven AI that will control the actions of the enemies, and they will add more pieces to the board, and it will go around and destroy you, basically. You lose the game if the turn marker is this tank here reaches the bottom here, and there are different things that will influence this going down, but also some effects may push you back, so it's not exactly a turn marker. If it goes on to game over, self-explanatory, you lost the game. Also, if any of the faction doesn't have any pieces in the city, then you also lose the game. To win the game, you need to complete conditions. Each faction needs to complete a condition. And there's one available at the beginning of the game, and then you have a deck of cards there. And the players need to send cubes to that deck. It represents the fact that they are holding a meeting, and they come up with new objectives. And that is how you will reveal more cards. To complete an objective of that kind, usually you will have to build an occupation in a specific district of the town that has been liberated. At the beginning of the game, you set up the town randomly, as you see here, with some guidance, with some restrictions, so it's not completely crazy map. But there is a huge degree of variability here in where pieces go, and also the orientation changes the way that the districts are connected, how close they are to one another, and so on and so forth. However, again, at the beginning of the game, all places are not liberated, and so you see this dark side on, and then players will perform actions that will allow them to liberate a space. When you liberate a space, you flip it to the other side, and you should try to keep the orientation. So if that ring is there, I want to make sure that I keep the same orientation there. And now it's a lot more colorful. We liberated that. The first district that can be liberated in the game must be a public district, like one of these. And then you can liberate more public districts if you want, or adjacent districts. And so, for example, if I wanna liberate that place there, because maybe that is one of the objectives here, then I can liberate this one first, and then I can go there and continue that way. And yay! I did that. I did that thing. So liberating places in general, and then specific places indicated in the condition cards, is how you win the game. If you can liberate a certain number of places before you lose the game, then you don't lose the game. Even better, you win the game. Also pretty cool, when you liberate an area, you reveal a card that is placed underneath. Look at that, there is a card under each of these. Isn't that neat? And each card is almost like a mini choose-your-own-adventure situation, because it describes a situation, you read this out loud, or by yourself if you're playing solo, then you decide each faction that contributed to the liberation, what that faction wants to do, and then you flip the card and you receive different bonuses, which I'm not going to show you so I don't give you spoilers. You see that areas have a number there that represents the difficulty. The higher the number, the tougher it is to do things in a certain area. And to liberate an area, for example, you need to have a number of pieces there equal to at least twice the difficulty, and multiple factions can contribute. Like yellow is sending 6 there, and the green is sending 4. Then there is a phase of the game in between rounds when we're gonna check. And again, if we meet that condition, we have at least twice as many as the difficulty, and there is no police in there, then we get to liberate it. So we're doing that right next to the police when we want to place some barricades there. We'll see what that does, but as you can imagine, the main idea is that they're gonna stop these guys from coming in. So what happens here? Again, there is a phase called the nighttime phase in which each faction will activate, and then you have a sunrise, basically is the end of the round phase in which you perform different kinds of actions and checks. Now, when a faction activates, suppose it's like yellow's turn. When a faction activates, first you're gonna draw a number of cards on this deck, and they tell you what the police does. They just, it's bad stuff. They move around, they try to catch you, they add more blocks, and you simply execute the action indicated there. The number, kind of pandemic style, the number of bad cards going against you changes depending on the morale of the police. They start, it's all the way up there. We gotta zoom in. There you go. It starts timid, so that means they only draw one card each time that a faction activates, and game effects will increase it possibly to alert, brutal, and all the way to deadly. So the higher the morale, the more dangerous they become. And their actions, of course, they will lower that. So you start your turn as a player when you're activating your faction by drawing again as many cards as indicated on the police morale track and resolve that. That's what you do. Then you roll dice, and you will always roll at least 3 dice, and then but it can be up to 5. The number of dice that you roll depends on how many blocks you have. The more people are there, the more fun the party, the more things they can do. And those dice are then the dice that you spend to perform actions. So the main difference between Pandemic, and I'm bringing up the game all the time because it just kept coming to mind when I was playing the game, so I'm sharing that perspective with you. A difference is basically you have a variable number of actions depending on your die roll, because some actions you can take regardless of the number, and I just spend a die to perform a basic action. But some advanced actions, you need to have a number equal to or higher than the difficulty of the place where you're trying to perform the action. So if I'm trying to perform an actions in a place with difficulty 5, but I have 3 actions this round. If this is what I rolled, because you can combine dice, then I have 2 actions this round. So that's a pretty significant variable right there. So again, you can perform actions spending your dice. Basic actions, again, regardless of the value of the die, you can spend a die to move your groups. So for a die of any kind, you activate your group and you can send them any distance moving, using roads. There are also metro stations, which are often open and sometimes not. That's a condition that changes during the game. If they're open, then you can just jump from one metro station to the other. So again, a basic action, spending a die of any value, moving. Another, building barricades, super important. Of course, you can do it only in areas adjacent to where you have cubes. A barricade will stop a police cube from coming in. 2 barricades will stop 2, and 3 barricades will stop anything. And so if you're trying to do something big right next to the police, you probably want to pile up a bunch of barricades there. Because again, cards and game effects will make them move. Also, speaking about movement, as you move, you cannot move through spaces containing the police. You can, if you so desire, move into spaces with the police, but then you have to stop there. And when that is the case, then you're kind of like you're locked in a clash. You cannot get out of there until there's a fight resolved between you and the police. Those are the 2 basic actions, moving and placing barricades. So again, as you can see, those are the only actions that ignore dice. So again, the result of the dice is pretty significant. Advanced actions, that again, they matter. It matters what you roll. Loot. So if you are in an area that has that kind of symbol, you can perform the loot action, and again, it's advanced, so you gotta match the number or exceed it. When you loot it, you can either burn the place to the ground, in which case you draw a loot card, but then the place is unavailable for the rest of the game. And there are some good things here. A lot of Molotov bottles, unsurprisingly, given the theme, I guess. And they do good stuff. They give you advantages. Or instead of looting it, you can tag it instead, which gives you no immediate benefits, but it can create a synergy to give you more stuff later. Another advanced action is that you can build an occupation in a space that is either neutral or has your own color, like in that case there, if yellow wanted to build there. And again, of course, you need to have blocks of your own. You need to have a die that at least has that value. And there must be no police there. When you build an occupation, you place one of these tokens here. You got a starting token on the board already. And they give you different advantages. This one allows you to recruit more cubes. This one gives you more loot. And you place there. That's for an action. Again, if I spend the corresponding die. I can also swap occupations if I really want this one instead of that one, but that's not usually the most profitable thing. And then, of course, it gets real, it gets close and personal. You can spend dice to fight against the police, in which case each of your cubes can perform one attack action, and you need to spend corresponding dice. So right now, for example, for one attack action, you can either eliminate a police cube or kick out two, in which case, however, they're not removed, they just kicked out, aren't they? You can also attack the police vans, which are particularly scary. One attack will tip it to the side, another attack will turn it upside down, and a third attack within the same night, so that means within the same round of each player activating, an attack on an overturned one removes it. And I must say, just piling up against these vans and turn upside down and then remove them is rather satisfying. Because these guys are tough, then they will activate and they will do a lot of bad stuff. So, these are the general things that you can do. Move around, build barricades, loot or attack places, attack police cubes, attack police vans, and as I mentioned earlier also, you can send cubes to the meetings, meaning on that deck right there, to later reveal more cards, which you need because there just aren't enough available at the beginning of the game for you to win, for everybody to be able to complete an objective. After everybody takes a turn like that, then it's sunrise and we have several steps. So we need to resolve a reaction card. This is the reaction deck, and incidentally the card on top also tells you the metro is open or not. Then you reveal it and you perform the action in which the vans that were damaged, if you didn't remove them, they come back. Very, very bad. Cubes in the same space as the insurgents, police cubes will attack them and destroy them, and then these will make these vans move around, and they destroy everything on their path, pretty much, or almost everything, and simply they move in different ways. But after a while, you'll kind of start seeing the patterns and know where maybe your biggest barricades should be. So you're doing the sunrise, which is again basically this phase in between rounds, in between each player after each player is taking a turn and before each player starts taking the next turn. First you resolve the reaction card, then you check to see if you can liberate districts. Remember, that's when you have twice as many as the difficulty, and you flip it to that side and you collect the bonus. You check if you have enough cards on the meeting deck to reveal a new victory condition card, and then you check if you win or you lose. Check the police morale. Do a couple of things like that. Advance the countdown track. Again, the main ideas that you're doing here is the police will have a big reaction. You will try to liberate places. You may get a new condition card. And then you go back again to resolving cards from the police deck, rolling dice and performing actions with them. And this is a general idea of how you play block by block Uprising. So, to my knowledge, there are two main traditions of cooperative games. The ones in the Arkham Horror Pandemic trend, which is you do some actions, you perform some actions, and then the board does something bad, and there's a certain clattering of the evil forces on the board, and you're trying to manage your expansion while also achieving your goals. And the other tradition is when you're trying to coordinate actions without full communication, such as in Hanabi or the Mine, for example. And they're big categories. They can welcome a ton of different games. It's fine. Recently, actually, I reviewed a game that is even more similar to Pandemic than Block to Block, which was The Spill. And that one, my conclusion was really it's very, very similar. So the main reason to choose one or the other should be the theme. If the theme appeals to you, then go for one or the other. Block by Block kept reminding me of Pandemic with a different theme, but there's also another important difference. Again, there are mechanical differences. The problem is that usually I didn't like them quite as much as I like Pandemic, so I didn't think that they improved on the general ideas. Every time that the theme diverged, the mechanics diverged, I was like, I don't know, Pandemic just seems more elegant and does the same things or more things in fewer steps. And so I can already anticipate my conclusions. That is, if you like the theme so much that you can accept playing a clunkier, more cumbersome, fiddlier version of Pandemic, then that's it, block by block. So that's being said, the theme is tight. The theme is king. Even when it comes to the way the theme is connected with the micro narratives of the rewards that you get when you liberate, the theme is there, just seeping, exploding, bursting with theme. And you really, again, get the sense of these groups that are forming, they're getting together, they go to meetings, they figure out what to do next, they're gathering, and really there is strength in number. But that also exposes you to danger, because at that point, if the police van drives through that's you're probably, before you can recover from that, that's not good. Which again, very thematic. Then if I'm doing something very important, then I'm going to start building barricades everywhere. Which again is very thematic, but then it comes at the cost of gameplay flexibility. Because if I'm trying to achieve that objective, I'm putting all my eggs in a basket, then I'm going to spend all the actions that I possibly can barricading that area. And once that is done, well, we're all there, aren't we? Then why don't we try to move to the next block, and we sit there until we can liberate it, barricade, everything, and so on and so forth. So there is just a path to victory, and sometimes quite a literal path to victory that you can see on the map. You can almost mentally draw on the map, and you gotta do that. And that's what you gotta do. And so gameplay feels a bit railroaded. Of course, you're still responding to all of these people, all of these evil white cubes spreading around, and you need to, well, their morale is increasing. What can we do to reduce it? Well, why don't we destroy a van? And so we take on that side mission, side quest almost, do other things of that kind. So your path to victory is pretty clear, so you're going to invest in that and then try to manage the different things that you need to do to keep the white cubes at bay. So again, you see, in a sense, that script also works for Pandemic or other games of this kind. But in that sense, in Pandemic and other games of that kind, very often you have more flexibility. You can combine different cards to do different things. We can meet in Karachi, we can meet in Essen, we can do different things. There is more of a use of the map that's more organic and just gives you more gameplay options. Here it feels a lot more concentrated. And again, when you resolve actions in Pandemic, well, you add those cubes, which is very simple, very quick, and very elegant. Here, you gotta check where the police wants to go. You need to check that number. What is the highest number in a certain category? Go around the map. That one is 18. That is 19. So the the cops are going to 21. And you figure out how they go there. They're just more steps to resolve the things that you need here of the evil automatized party does things that then you need to respond to and to try to prevent. And again, overall, incidentally, I found it enjoyable enough that I that I wanted to see what happened. I was still engaged, but I didn't find it particularly compelling. Oh my gosh, I want to try a lot of different things, because I didn't feel that really there are many different things from game to game, as you are always trying to complete those things. And again, the victory conditions feel pretty railroaded, and then just swingy luck moments that felt a little too much, and they kind of, again, made the experience less enjoyable to me. Big disclaimer, I only played it solitaire, so I didn't play it semi-co-op. Then maybe those agendas will add more elements. Let me know what you think. But in fully co-op and in solitaire, which is kind of the same, the game felt a little bit limited, and it felt I just had a lot more steps than I liked to achieve a result which was good, but could have been better if it had been done more elegantly. And again, ultimately, I feel like I want to play Pandemic right now. So, block by block, similarities with Pandemic, in that is okay. Elements that are not the same, and to me personally feel weaker, so I'm going to recommend this game to people who like the theme so much that they're okay playing a slightly, or not so slightly, more cumbersome, little clunkier version of Pandemic.